Hey there! Welcome to Mark in the Park, the podcast. I'm your host, Mark Milo, speaker, storyteller, and healthcare advocate. And this is the place for personal reflections, stories about mindset, hobbies, and purpose. And a reminder that life doesn't stop at a diagnosis. In fact, often the real journey begins after. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mark in the Park podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest. Somebody from the UK, which I absolutely love because, if you know me, you know I love that British accent. And today from the UK, I have Paul Dennison. Paul, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me on. Much
Absolutely.
appreciated.
Absolutely, Paul. Now, for those that don't know, Paul is not just a citizen of the UK, he's also an author, and he's written some cool stuff, and he has a Parkinson's journey that we want to talk about. So Paul, if you don't mind, help us understand your journey into the Parkinson's realm.
Certainly. Thank you for having me. First of all, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's back in 2018. There was clearly something wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I was wearing a Fitbit at the time. I was trying to get my 10,000 steps in a day, and my foot started locking up, and my sport, playing squash and other bits and pieces, were starting to suffer. So I went to the doctors, and they referred me. And I had various tests, and turned out that I had Parkinson's, and you could have knocked me over with a feather. And I think at the time, the thing that hit me most is like I'd been punched between the eyes, and I didn't know what was happening. I'd run a busy office. I was a sales manager, and I was looking after 20 people or so. And all of a sudden, I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't be in the same room as them. The walls started to move in, and I'd break out in sweats. And I just couldn't face people anymore. I didn't understand what was happening. One day, my wife Sharon said, "I think you've got anxiety." And I said, "I have not got anxiety." And by the time I finished the phrase, I realized that's exactly what I had. And I slowly started to deteriorate, and I couldn't understand Parkinson's. I couldn't understand the big words and the explanations and what was happening to me. But words started to form in my head for no reason about Parkinson's. And I started to put them together, and I started to rhyme. And I was in the shower one day, and I get what I call like electric shocks, pulses that just go through me. And I was in the shower one day, and that's what happened to me. And I felt that I was wearing a suit. I was wearing a suit that was malfunctioning. So I wrote a poem called "I Have a Suit Malfunction, Sir." And that was one of my first poems that I wrote. And that went really well, and I'm going to read it for you just very, very quickly. It's called "I Have a Suit Malfunction, Sir," and it goes like this. How did I get here? It's a bit of a blur. I think I may have a suit malfunction, sir. Made in 65 and has Paul on the nameplate. You only get one, so look after it, mate. Now, I might have fallen out of the odd tree, or dropped on my head a few times, you see. I have a few sporting injuries in the odd stitch. This could be the reason for why I twitch. My body has a few bruises and strains, just one owner, but not everything remains. The cabling to my server is very frayed, messages take ages and are always delayed. Fatigue is the enemy to all, the battery's empty, go to bed, Paul. While I was asleep, there's a whole new light show, fireworks and explosions that just won't go. Drifting as my eyes knock off work, followed by electrical surges, pulses and jerks. Muscles that just don't want to rest, cramping pains that really do test. Insomnia, I've downloaded the app. Lost in the same cycle which becomes a trap. When you consider this poem, I'm sure you will concur that I have a suit malfunction, sir. So that was the first poem that I wrote. And then rhyme started to resonate with me as a way of trying to explain my condition. At that time, that's when COVID just started. My anxieties were alleviated a little bit because we were locked in. We didn't see anyone. So that kind of worked for me. Slightly, a couple of months after that, I started to have problems with the toilet, and I developed something called ulcerative colitis, which was pretty severe. And I'd be on the toilet for up to 12 hours a day. through the night, all sorts of things. I'd get up from the toilet, walk 2 paces, turn around and come back and sit down again. So I was referred to the hospital, and they put me on all sorts of infusions, trying to cure all these bits and pieces, which was my first stay in hospital. With pneumonia. After that, they gave me all sorts of different infusions, but nothing worked, and I was losing weight massively. And they said, "Look, you need an operation. You need a stoma operation." So I had the operation, and I was 5 weeks in hospital. The operation was a success, but my Parkinson's meds interfered, and the steroids I was on interfered with the operation. And it was 5 weeks before they discharged me, and the stoma was working properly, and I've got a colostomy bag.
Wow.
A month later, I was back in hospital again, having an emergency operation. My stoma had twisted, and then I spent another 5 weeks in hospital, and that was during COVID. And at the time, the hospitals were only letting one person in at a time into the ward, and that would be Sharon, my wife, who cared for me fantastically well. And I was discharged in the January, and I got a stomach infection from the second operation, and I couldn't stand up. Sorry, I could stand up or I could lie down. I couldn't bend. So I was another month in bed recovering from that. When I've recovered from that scenario, I contracted an eye infection called uveitis. And that was another 3 or 4 weeks getting rid of that. When that finished, I had another lung infection. And I was another 3 or 4 weeks recovering from that. 1 week in the hospital, I had 5 different appointments at 5 different departments on 5 different days.
Wow.
When I finally got on my feet, I went to visit my daughter up in Lancaster, which is about 5 hours away from us on the train. Not very far compared with distances in the States, but long enough for me. When I came back from that, I developed COVID. I caught COVID. And it turned out that was the best thing that happened to me, because I'd had the inoculations, and my immune system coped with it all. And because it coped with it all, I thought, right, okay, this is my opportunity to get out and get doing things, get on with my life. I felt confident enough that I could sustain that sort of side of things. So that's exactly what I did. Over this period of time, I had to try. I like sports. Sports is my thing. I've always loved sports, and I needed to get fit. But I also left hospital at 8 stone, so I had all that weight to put back on, which was great fun. I just ate for 8 months. It was fantastic. I'd be eating fried chicken at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was just great, just sort of eating. But I had to get fit, and I decided that I needed to set myself a goal in terms of cycling. I had an exercise bike, and to date I've cycled nearly 11,000 miles.
Wow.
Over the last 3.5 years. And of course, the first part of that journey, which is the first 8,000 miles, resulted in another poem. And this is roughly how the books are constructed, really, that they are a timeline of what's happened. And this one's called Kiss and Tell, and it's about my journey through that ride. I had to set some personal goals. My body was broken and I had to retake control. My lung condition was a priority and exercise was key. I needed a challenge, I'm sure you would agree. Land's End to John O'Groats all uphill. 839 miles on an exercise bike, I knew the drill. 15 miles a day as fast as my body would allow. It took me 2 months, great, but what now? So I turned the bike around and cycled back down. Repeated that distance, now I have that crown. 2,080 miles, the Tour de France was next. My missus didn't get white, left her perplexed. I have to get fit, give my lungs the best chance. But it's affecting your Parkinson's doing the Tour de France. And that's a health balance you face when you have different issues, as is often the case. A few months later, I had the power to envisage cycling past the Eiffel Tower. Another goal complete, but not a reason to stop. I'm pushing hard and not ready to stop, not ready to drop. Now, Forrest Gump is a film I like most. So I decided to cycle America coast to coast. 3,000 miles, I'm not going to lie. This was tough and often wondered why. Going east to west I thought was best. It took nearly a year. It was quite a test. I've worn through 2 pairs of cycling shoes. Numerous bicycle bits was the infantry news. With other challenges, I've completed 8,000 miles, and this is what I've learnt from those trials. And despite the hills, the weather, the early starts, the lot, I've completed these distances all on the same spot.
Mm,
And
very good.
that's my trip down through the cycling on the exercise bike. But there's
Right.
one moment that sort of one moment that sort of came that pinpointed my final journey was my Parkinson's nurse Louise asked me to tell my story to the hospital board.
Mm,
So every month they ask a certain person to find a patient to present to the hospital board their story as a way of keeping their feet on the floor while they discuss numerous other bits and pieces. Now, I said yes, although my anxiety was through the roof, because I wanted to do it. When I got there, I thought there'd be 3 or 4 people there. When I got there was nearly 80 people in the room.
mm.
And I, freaked a little bit. But I was there. And there's one thing with anxiety in me is anxiety is a terrible, debilitating thing for Parkinson's people. And in insomnia and fatigue. And that's a recipe that is quite common with us all. They play around the edges. I call them the trio of fear. And it's called The Board. And I got halfway through telling my story, and my Parkinson's nurse, Louise, tapped me on the knee and said, "I'll read this last slide." And she read this last slide, and by the time she finished, the whole room was in tears.
Mm.
And it was quite an incredible situation that it was hard to believe. So I came away sort of uplifted by it all. But of course, I had to write a poem.
Mm.
And this poem is called The Board. And this poem is also my favourite poem. And my Parkinson's nurse had this poem adapted for a wedding last month. They read it as one of the speeches. So I'm
Wow.
incredibly honoured to have taken part in this. I'm incredibly honoured to have my Parkinson's nurse look after me the way she does. And to choose that for this situation. So I'll read this quickly. It's called The Board. Oh my God, good Lord. I've been asked to present my story to the hospital board. It was nice to be asked, but my anxiety hit the roof. I couldn't face people, and that was the truth. My Parkinson's nurse, Louise, recommended me for the gig, so I got all dressed up and acted big. Sat in the canteen waiting for the nod. I was going to start with I was saved by God. But not religious and moving on quickly. Into the boardroom, it's rammed and I'm feeling sickly. Sit down, sweaty palms get introduced. I look over to Holly, my daughter, which gives me a boost. It's time to speak, to have my say. It's now or never. Do I leave or do I stay? To my dear friend, Confidence, I love your timing. I pitched for 10 minutes. It was very defining. On to the last slide, I get a tap on the knee. I'll read this slide as the room gets all emotionally. Louise delivered the perfect last slide. Some people applauded and some people cried. Some Q&A, I'm relaxed and at ease. Where's my anxiety gone? It's such a bloody tease. So if you suffer with anxiety, you can always seek what's already inside, faith, courage, and confidence to speak. So when I look back at all that emotion, I think, look how far I've come with NHS devotion. But
Wow. So, Paul, this journey is that you're describing is amazing. From being diagnosed to being in hospital during COVID to finding rhyme and being able to speak so eloquently in those ways, having the opportunity to talk to the board, such wonderful things. But I want to take a pause here and say, this is all wonderful stuff. You've talked about a couple things that I want to touch on. First of all, your diagnosis. When you were diagnosed, you mentioned that you kind of felt a bit lost, maybe hit between the eyes, right?
Yeah.
Um, how did you make it through that time? I know you're married. You've been married for some time.
Mm, mm,
It sounds like you're a definite family man.
yeah.
Was your family a support to you, your wife? Tell me about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. They were tremendously supportive and curious and confused and all those other bits and pieces.
Mm, mm,
You know yourself when you start reading about Parkinson's as a newbie, as first diagnosed, it's very, very confusing. There's an awful lot of messages out there. There's also a lot of information, and you try and pick up what you can, but you don't know what we know now. We don't know where our journey starts until year 2, 3, 4, sort of in. So I found that tremendously confusing. But my family are very, very supportive, especially my wife Sharon. She's looked after me tremendously. Well, I couldn't ask for anyone to do that better, and big love to her.
yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
That's so important. In fact, our listeners and viewers won't know this, but she was actually responsible for this podcast actually happening as
she
your IT
was.
support. So there you go.
She was. She was. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Good stuff. And having the support of your family is just absolutely wonderful. And
absolutely.
you have what, 2 kids, right?
Indeed, yeah, two, yeah, Hannah and Holly, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and
And
two grandchildren.
well, and that's where that gets my heart going because I've told all my friends being a grandfather is the greatest thing to me. It really is. So that's awesome. So 2 kids, 2 grandkids. That's a great support group to start. But
It,
do you have
it,
other support around you? Do you go to a support group? Do you have friends around you? Are you on social media, or do you have people that check in on you? Any other
Yeah,
support
yeah,
systems?
yeah, indeed. Yeah, I'm very lucky that way. I have quite a few close friends, quite a few close sporting friends as well. I've played a lot of
Mm,
sport in the past, and I like to be competitive. And I'm lucky to have 3 or 4 really close friends that check up on me. But I also go to numerous Parkinson's clubs here in the UK. We've got 2 that have just started over the last 12 months or so, and they are burgeoning. They're getting bigger and bigger, and we're doing more and more stuff, and we're able to help support people as they come through. We're also here to help discuss their journeys and where we're able to compare and contrast. And it's a bit like the ages through the Parkinson's. It's like the window into your future a little bit.
mm,
So that is a great help, and we each group meets once a month.
mm, mm. Gotcha. Also, you mentioned uh, 8 stone. Now, for us
Mm.
in the United States, we don't get that. What was your weight at that point, if you don't mind defining that?
What in kilos or pounds or?
I In
Oh,
kilos,
so
what was I?
so when I went in, I was 11 stone. When I came out, I was 8 stone.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, so basically, I was about what's that? About 130 pounds, something like that, when I came out.
Wow, wow. Okay,
So I'd lost 42 pounds
right.
because they couldn't feed me. My stoma, my colostomy bag, we think has a direct relationship to Parkinson's through the gut health discussions that are now
Mm, mm,
evolving. And one of the things with my colostomy bag is I have to wear it all the time, but it's giving me my life back. I feel
mm.
tremendously lucky, even though I'm left this way, that I have a colostomy bag, because it's given my life back, and I'm able to do lots of things I couldn't do while I was sat on the toilet all the time. So that's
Sure.
it is an absolute bonus for me.
Well, I love the way you're looking at it as a positive because
Mm.
it may be a nuisance to deal with, but it's giving you freedom on the other end. And as I've journeyed down my Parkinson's path, uh, I definitely try and find the silver lining in things because stuff comes
Yeah.
up. It's going to happen. But if I
Mm.
can find a positive aspect of it, or find some way, or quite frankly, if I can joke about it, because I find humor is a very big part of my support, the way that I get
Absolutely.
through things, right? So,
Mm.
and, and
Absolutely. I totally agree.
well, I was just going to ask you that question kind of directly. Um, how does humor play in your dealing with? It couldn't even be Parkinson's. Any type of hurdle in your life. How does humor play a part in that? Does that
Oh,
make sense?
Matt. Yeah, massively, massively. I love a laugh and a joke. I love messing around. When I said to you I was an office manager, 'cause my bosses didn't like me very much because of the way I mess about all the time. It's very, very important to have a sense of humour, and it's very, very important to be able to convey that. And the book carries a lot of humour within that. The book isn't also about Parkinson's. The book is also, there's some dementia in there, there's some grief in there, but there's also an eclectic amount of nonsense in there about romance, about history, and all the rest of it. And funny moments have happened during my life. And there's one particular poem with Sharon that called The Eternity Ring that has that humour attached to it.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, humor is, and I'm asking the same question to multiple guests because I have a future episode coming up about the role that humor plays in overcoming adversity. So thank you for that. With that in mind, I have a question for you. What genre of music do elves like to listen to when they're working with Santa?
Go on.
Rap music. You get it? Rap music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, anyways, with that in mind, you mentioned the book. Okay.
Mm.
What's the title of the book? And by the way, I will have a link to this book in the show notes afterwards. But what's the title of the book?
The book's called Humour, Heart and Hope, Life in Rhyme.
Okay, excellent. Now, have you always been a writer? Have you always been able to rhyme? Is this something that comes naturally to you?
No. So basically, when I was younger, I've been asked to be best man a couple of times at a wedding and all the rest of it. And when I was wooing Sharon, if you like, I would always write rhyming poetry,
Mm.
but nothing to the extent of what I do now. Really feel that Parkinson's has actually given me something. It's given me something incredibly powerful that I just absolutely love and adore now. I get so much out of it. Parkinson's has actually given me that, and I feel incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do. And I feel it's important that the message that these books convey goes towards Parkinson's to raise money for Parkinson's.
That's awesome. So you weren't really that much into writing and those types of things until Parkinson. So it is
No,
something that you've actually acquired since. That's fascinating. I,
absolutely,
I
absolutely. If you'd have told me 2 or 3 years ago I'd write a couple of books and put some of the poems to music, I'd have laughed, absolutely laughed at you.
Wow.
So yeah, I feel incredibly honoured, incredibly lucky.
Again, this is part of the uniqueness of Parkinson's because it does affect your brain, and the impact it can have on your brain can be something like this. I believe the comedian Billy Connolly. I think I read it on his website that uh, when he got Parkinson's, he became an artist. He loves to paint now, and
Yeah.
loves to do artwork,
Mm.
and that was not the case before Parkinson's. And so, I love the fact that you're finding the positive there, and you're putting it to use, and that's fantastic. You mentioned the books, so you've got a second book now too, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've got a second book. It's called Humour, Heart and Hope, Life in Rhyme V2. And so
Nice.
Yeah. And there's also within the book, the second book is focused more on Parkinson's. I wanted it to carry a bit more of a message, Parkinson's wise. And the book also has musical notes on some of the poems that are also been changed into music
Hmm.
using AI. And I feel incredibly lucky to be able to play around with it. I love music, and I feel incredibly lucky to be able to have been able to do this with the help of AI, putting the music to it. And the music is there to download, it's free. And the idea is to read the poem with the musical note and then listen to the song and see how the poem transforms. And it's quite incredible the way that it does it. I've just got so much out of that. I just enjoyed that so much.
Awesome. Well, I'll have a link to that too in my show notes too as well. So that's
Thank you.
fantastic. Boy, this is amazing. Your journey. is so full. It's ups and downs. It's there's victories, there's valleys, and that's to go back to what you said about book one. It's not about Parkinson's, right? Um, that's what I tell people about my podcast here. We talk about Parkinson's, and
Mm.
Parkinson's is a thread that goes through many of the episodes, but it's really not about Parkinson's. It's about life. It's overcoming challenges. It's about keeping a sense of humor during difficult times or finding success. I've had my life coach on, a mindset coach. I just was interviewed by a mindset coach, and there's reasons why I talk to mindset coaches or life coaches, because I've got to keep my mind in the proper frame to make it through with Parkinson's. And
Yeah,
you mentioned anxiety. One of my biggest non movement symptoms is anxiety. I get anxiety and panic attacks, and as you mentioned, it can be debilitating. And
yeah.
there's really nothing I can equate it to. I've been in a lot of stress and pressure situations throughout my life, but never had a panic attack or stress attack until Parkinson's. And so I completely identified when you were talking about that. That is something that's very difficult. But to find a way to put that journey to use, to put it to rhyme a second time in another book, and then to put it to music is
Mm.
just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely.
It-
Um, what are your, if you don't mind me asking, what are your symptoms that you deal with from a Parkinson's standpoint, movement or non-movement? And the reason I ask that is people that are not educated about Parkinson's are
mm.
oftentimes surprised by the symptoms that we wrestle with every day.
Mm. Yeah, no, exactly. There are so many different channels, isn't there? And this is why trying to figure out where your journey is going is so hard. So, from my point of view, I don't suffer from a resting tremor. What I do is I move and jerk around very, quite a lot. But it essentially affects my movement down my right hand side.
Mm.
So I don't move my right leg and my right arm very well. I scuff when I walk. I have horrendous nightmares and hallucinations. You know the dreams you have. Sometimes you're actually in the dream, aren't you? It's horrible. And so and I have flashes. I have at rest. I have a lot of pulses and jerks.
Mm.
And I have restless legs and all those other two things, and the insomnia and the fatigue and the anxiety and all the rest of it. And there's a series in the book called the Mister series, and we look at a poem, Mr. Anxiety, Mr. Fatigue, Mr. Insomnia. They all plan, and the trio of fear, all three of them together, because they all
Yeah.
interact together. They're all in the book as well. Uh, um, but I find, I don't know about you, I find that when I'm at rest, when I'm just sort of, if you like, powering down, I always look at myself as if I'm a robot or something. As I'm powering down,
Yeah.
and I'm relaxed and I'm just about to go to sleep. All of a sudden, get an electric surge through me, like a pulse, and it's like, where does that come from? And then it takes you ages to settle down again, and it goes and bloody does it again.
Yeah.
And that to me is then a poem,
Mm.
because I'm trying to work out in words what's happening, and I find that's a better way of me explaining me, if you like.
Right. Right. Wow. Yeah. And I know what you're talking about. I get that periodically. I'll feel like an absolute, like just a jolt through my body, and it makes me tense up. And
Mm,
I've never really I've never really thought about it from like a robotic standpoint. I like that because it's like almost like
mm.
a short circuit going through a robot.
That's it.
Um,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
okay.
So I've got a poem called "Oh Father Time," and it's a song. And if you listen to those two, that explains everything. And yeah.
Wow. So you have these books. They're for sale. I'll put the links in my show notes there. Um, and when you sell the books, um, I believe you said that the money for the books goes to a charity.
Yes, correct. Yes. So Parkinson's UK profits go to that charity, and this is how I feel that what this has given me, I want the opportunity to give to them, and anyone that in between would like to buy it.
That's awesome. That is amazing. I love that. So you're writing these books, helping the Parkinson's community, and any financial gains that come in benefit the Parkinson's community as well, going to the Parkinson's UK. That is fantastic.
That's right, and absolutely helping me no end
Yeah,
through a positive headspace
yeah,
and just enjoying what I'm doing. And yeah,
yeah. Well, that's actually one reason why I do this podcast. I've had a couple of therapists and my life coach both insist that I'm a storyteller, so get out there and tell stories. It will do you good mentally, and it does. I do this really for my pleasure and for
mm,
as a therapy for me, and I love
mm,
doing it. But I also love giving people a platform to tell their stories. So
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
now, one thing about the Parkinson's UK, I just want to pipe up here real quick. I am a volunteer for the Parkinson's Foundation here in the United States. And the Parkinson's Foundation in the United States here has a very close knit and tight relationship with Parkinson's UK. We actually
Fantastic.
invest in research with Parkinson's UK because there's so much happening that's so positive with Parkinson's
Wow.
UK. And so our CEO has joined with them, and there's a lot of collaboration going on, which so I just absolutely love that because the Parkinson's community is a global community. It's not
Yeah,
just United States, not just UK. We are global. And for those listeners that don't know this, Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing neurologic disorder in the world, according to the CDC. So this is a rapidly growing condition. It's going to impact more and more people. People that you know in your life are going to be impacted. If they're not already, it's going to happen because it's growing so quickly. So having people unite and come together for a cure, for a diagnosis, all these things is wonderful to see. So thank you, Paul, for doing that, and your support of the Parkinson's UK is just going to help all of us. So thank you for that.
no, thank you. There's definitely strength in unity,
Yeah.
and community really does work. And just sort of stepping back to anxiety a little bit, horrible and debilitating, as you said that is. And I try and use it as a positive now. When I get anxiety, I reason myself why, and then if it's important to me, I make sure I go. And I find with anxiety, the hardest part is that one step over the front door threshold. If you can get
Mm.
over that front door threshold, you'll go. So that's what I do. I use anxiety as a positivity tool.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, here's this show's edition of Mark My Words, because I'm going to tell you the fact that you have turned so many things into a positive is something that I talk about, but you are living this out. I talk to people about, hey, trying to twist things into a positive, finding the silver lining, looking for those things because it's so important when it's so difficult. It's so important to look for something. There's a quote that I often think about with Michael J. Fox. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. And if you stay positive, you look at the things that you can find that are positive or be thankful for. Like you said, you were thankful in a way. Uh, you're thankful that Parkinson's has given you this ability to rhyme and to write, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and that gives us optimism, and allows that optimism to be sustained. So I just love that. And guys, gals, everybody listening, it might be difficult. Your life might be a burning dumpster fire kind of thing. Divorce, a loss of a loved one, whatever the case, it doesn't have to be a diagnosis. Stay focused on trying to find the positives. Stay focused on trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel, and have people around you that will support you and help you during that time. And Paul, you've got a wonderful wife, Sharon. You've got some kids and grandkids. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I got fantastic support.
Absolutely. So again, mark my words, you will not regret it. Look for the positive in things, and find your way to get through that time, because there are a lot of dark times out there, and sometimes it takes that spark of positivity, that spark of hope, that remembrance of optimism to get you through. So there you
Uh,
go.
Absolutely. And I've got a quick story for you. Going back to July, June, I'd lost my voice. My
Mm,
voice was going, and approached my Parkinson's nurse, and they said it's Parkinson's and all the rest of it. By the time I got to the end of September this year, I had no voice at all. Holly, my daughter, was getting married at the end of October, and I'm giving her away, and I want to speak.
Yes.
It's my duty as a father to do that, and I want to do that. I've got no voice, got no nothing. And Parkinson's UK put me on a voice therapy course, 5-week course. Got my voice back. Incredible. I stood up at the wedding and said my bit, and as an incredibly proud father. And 5 minutes before, me and Sharon were outside the venue going la 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 la, trying to get my voice warmed up, and that's I'm incredibly proud to be able to have given Holly away and actually have spoken.
I got to ask you, did you cry?
Yep.
Yep.
I'm going to cry in a minute.
Yeah, I understand. I'm so proud of you for that. That is another thing. I actually have 7 or 8 sessions of voice therapy scheduled for myself coming up very soon. Parkinson's does affect your voice, and one of my favorite podcast hosts, Mike Qualia, did the Parkinson's, the YOPN Parkinson's podcast for like years. He had to stop because he lost his voice, and that was so difficult for him. And so that's one thing I tell people too. As part of your care team, you need to consider having a speech therapist involved in that, because it's so important.
Definitely, and it's there. It's there. Yeah. Your voice is there. You just got to rediscover it.
Yep. That's a great way to put it. Rediscovering your voice. Absolutely. The speech therapist will help you find it again. And so, boy, thank you, Paul, for sharing that. That's amazing. Okay. Unfortunately, we've reached our time, which is always a mind-blowing thing how quickly the clock goes. So now we're going to do our segment called Get to the Chopper.
Get to the chopper!
And this is where we're up on the hillside. Helicopters are going to come to extract us and take us home. And at this point, we want to look back and say, what is the one thing that you want your listeners to take away from today's episode? What's the one thing that you want them to remember from Paul today?
My message would be, I'd like to get everyone to rhyme, please. I think that Parkinson's has given me the opportunity to rhyme, and I feel that during winter days when sometimes we can't get out, let's all rhyme. Send me a poem. That's what I'd like. Send me a rhyme.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Paul. And to your point, rhyming, I've never been good at rhyming. I try, but since my Parkinson's, I have found a love for painting. I actually have, this was not staged, by the way. I actually have a couple of canvases because I'm going to paint this weekend. And I have found that I have a need for creativity that's came up since Parkinson's. And so to your point, I will try my hand at rhyming. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to continue to find things, avenues of expression, because
definitely,
as my brain changes, I think that's one thing that's really important, is to find an outlet for creativity and expression. So thank you so much, Paul, for that. That's amazing. Well, Paul, again, it's amazing. The clock on the wall goes by so fast. So I just want to thank you, Paul, so much for being on today. I have a feeling I'm going to have you back. You're a great guest, and you've got some great stuff. I will put the link to your books in the show notes. And it's just a delight to have you on today, Paul. Absolutely.
Thank you for the invite. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And to my listeners out there, guys, you heard what we're talking about. There's a lot of positives that are going on despite the roadblocks. So I just want to remind you guys, life is a journey. It's not just a destination. Life is a journey. So get out there, guys, and keep exploring. Take care, guys, and God bless. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Mark in the Park, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your support helps more people discover the show. For show notes, updates, and future episodes, or to connect, head over to markinthepark21.com. Got a guest idea or a topic suggestion? Drop me a line at markintheparkpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And to all my listeners, this is Mark Milo reminding you, life is as much about the journey as the destination. So enjoy the sights and sounds along the way. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep exploring.